Hi, hey Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Oh, it's a mess. For the next couple of days, I can't work on my wall like I'd hoped I would. So it'll be Monday before I start back on that. So I've been tinkering with my portable power station, and I've had to revamp the whole thing, quite frankly. The box, the way I was designing it, I couldn't use any size battery. If I got a bigger batteries, like the 9 amp batteries that are now out, I wouldn't be able to use them in this unit. So the design was totally wrong. So I changed it. I made it similar to how the supercharger by Ryobi works, where the batteries go in from the side up on top at an angle. And that's the design this is. That way it doesn't matter what size battery it is, whether it's a 5 amp, a 9 amp, or a 30 amp. Who knows what they're going to go with these things. Whatever it ends up being, I'll still be able to use those batteries as long as the terminal is the same on the other end, which they're pretty good about doing that with Ryobi up to now. So, with that in mind, this being the design, the other thing I did is I found these boards. These are off of an old chest of drawers. These are the drawer sides in back and front. Excellent wood. It's about 40 years old, but it's still nice and flat. It's 3/8 of an inch thick, and I'm just going to use those for the sides of this. And it'll open up so I can get to the wiring inside. Also, the battery then will just have a hole here that it'll start drop into. So that basically the battery will set in here like so. Actually, let me turn this around. There we go. Like so. And then the batteries will just snap in here. The other thing I will do is I'll make it so that you take it, open it, and these pieces will have some kind of locking mechanism on it, like so that you can lock it down and make a wire connection. And also, this connection will hold the battery in place so that when you bring it back and you put it up here, that locked in will hold this battery down. So that'll give you a way to hold that battery, because I can't use the clipping actions that they use on all the other tool snap-ins. It would be too complicated to try to set something up like that on here. So this will give me that, solve that problem too. So with that in mind, we are going to want to use a set screw type of connection for this. Now you can still use the PVC pipe on here like I showed you on the last time. In part 2, I showed you how this would lock down and you shove the wire in here. Now, with the way we're going to do it on this box and for permanently, because we want something that's going to be maintenance free and won't break on us or anything, I will probably connect the wire to the outside of this. This will be set up so it only goes about a half a turn to lock it down, and then both terminals will then make good contact, and it'll also lock the battery in place so that everything will hold together and you'll get good electrical connection. So you can do it with this, but you can also do it with these. George sent me these, and I thanked him for it. They're wonderful, but we need to actually revamp 3 things on them. I hate to say that. If you're interested in a version 2, old pal, old buddy, George, we need to make a couple changes, and this thing would be awesome. And then I wouldn't have to use the PVC pipe. I can do it with these, and this would be better. Anyway, the 3 changes. First and foremost, this needs to be 7/16 of an inch wider, deeper. So when I set it on here, there's this gap. I need 7/16 of an inch to take that gap up. So this will set flat on the wood, and I can anchor it to the wood so that when I slip the battery in, it bottoms out perfectly, so when I tighten it down, everything lines up. So this would be nice if it was a little taller and make it a lot easier to adapt it to a flat panel like this. Which brings me to the second modification. On the bottom here, it would be nice to have 3 molded tabs in here for a screw to hold it, so that you can then set it down and screw it down through those 3 tabs to hold this thing anchored in place. Those tabs would be really cool to have on here. I assume it wouldn't be hard to add that to a file. And the third thing is that because I want to use a set screw that I actually tighten down, I tried to do the spring load with pieces of wire and stuff, and it really will cause damage to this pretty shortly. So I think that what I'm going to have to do is, instead of this hump, if that was a nice flat piece all the way from the top and came out until that second hole right there, that would be the length of it, a nice flat piece, that would give me a place to be able to screw in from the outside and tap it with a 1032 and put a 1032 screw in there for a set screw. And then I would use set screws on these. So I need a chunk of plastic built up in there instead. Like I said, that probably would do it. Those 3 modifications and this thing I can make work perfectly. If you're interested, get a hold of me and we'll talk about this in detail. But that's kind of where I'm at. If not, I'll just use the PVC pipe, and I thank you for what you've done, because these things actually have really opened up a lot of ideas in my head. So stay tuned for future things. We'll still probably use these up in different things. So that's the way the battery hookup is going to work. So as far as the electrical goes, remember the power source is Ryobi batteries, 18 volts DC. So it goes through a step-down converter, so it goes from 18 volts down, and I'll have it adjusted to 12.9 volts on the lower voltage side. The inverter itself, that converter, will set in the top of the box inside here, and then I'm also going to have 4 terminal blocks. So for terminal blocks, I've got this aluminum bar that I was talking about last time too, that's 3/16 of an inch thick. And I figured out that if I cut chunks like this and I can drill holes in it, I can drill an 11/64 hole. Then I took one of these 1032 bolts, I took a 2-inch long one and cut the head off, and I put it in my drill here. After I drilled my 11/64 hole, I carefully lined everything up, and I pushed that up through there, and that tapped it for thread. Now, and so if I put 5 or 6 different holes in here and put screws and lock nuts and washers on it, that'll give me a place for terminals to hook up all my wiring. And this will be my terminal block, so everything comes to this point. So I'll need 4 of these blocks, 2 positive and 2 negative, for both the 12 volt side and for the 18 volt side. So I'll need 4 blocks that I'll have to make up. But this will be perfect for giving me the terminal blocks in there and give me a lot of room. So once I get everything wired up, the other thing that we have is a 400 watt inverter, so that you can run 110 on this thing too. So these Ryobis will also run 110 appliances and stuff. Nothing big like your refrigerator, but 400 watts. So do the math. But this is going to mount on the underside here, and then this whole thing will actually have 4 round legs on it to hold it up off the table, and this will fit underneath here and be bolted under there. And this is my 110 volts, so the wires for that will come up into here and hook to my 12 volt side, and then turn it on will be right here, so I can use the 110 if I need it. If I don't, it stays off. This thing has a heat sink body, an air vent, so air has to be circulated throughout this thing totally. So this is going to have to be all open under there, and that will make it better just by having it bolted to the underside, and it'll still have access to this. So I'll get this mounted easily, and it'll be mounted sturdy, so I can plug things in and out. So that's where my 110 volts will come from. So I can take my Ryobi batteries and actually plug in something and run it on 110. So that's the whole setup, but the thing is, it stands now. I'll put some kind of handle on it. My cigarette lighter will probably be here. My 110, that whole piece will be underneath here, so everything will be at one end. I'll put a voltmeter here so I can register how many volts I have, so I'll know when I'm running low. The other thing that is nice is that these batteries now they all have their own fuel gauge on them to show you how much battery charge you have in it at any time. With these plugged in this way, I'll be able to look at all 4 batteries or each one individually and check it real quick to see if that battery is still what shape they're in as I go along. So that'll help me gauge how much battery life I got left before I run out if I'm using these in the field. So that'll be nice, and it'll be easy by it being on top. This is going to be a much better design. I think it'll look nicer. So I'm now at the point where I'm getting ready to just put it all together. I have all my pieces. I have my all my fittings. I now have my terminal blocks. So hopefully in the next few days, depending on what's going on with this, I'm going to try to get this all together. Now that I've got all the little pieces figured out how I'm going to do it so that we have a good unit. I do want this to last for years because I think this is going to be a very practical tool to have around the house. A nice little quick power station. And I'm going to have, not counting, if you don't count the batteries, which I use for a lot of other things, I'm going to have about $100 wrapped up into this thing totally. So that's not too bad when you consider it'll be a 12 amp and it'll be however many hour batteries you put in it. Right now I'll be running 20 amp hours. If I bought the 9 amp, I'd have 36 amp hours. So that would be the size of a small battery in a car, 35 amp hours. So that's not bad out of Ryobi batteries. I think it's going to be a handy thing to have around. I'm going to do some tests. After I get it put together, I'll also go over some testing with it. I'm going to plug it into my computer and let it run till the batteries run out. We'll see how long that takes, how many days. I suspect it'll take several days, but we'll see. So it'll just stay plugged in. So be an interesting test. If you have any other ideas for tests or anything for this, let me know. I'm sorry I don't have it done, but like I said, I had to start over, and building this box was really a pain for me. And then now I'm sidetracked by doing this other job. It's a mess here, as you can tell. I mean, you can't tell any difference. Anyway, I do want to thank you for stopping by. I hope you liked this video. If you did, say so. Most importantly, though, please come back again, because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks, and we'll see you guys again soon. Hey, George, call me, even if you don't want to do this. That's okay. Thanks. We'll see you.